Come on in. Enjoy the view from the On Fek Circle, presented by JFtC and the Jays from the Couch radio podcast. This little misadventure streams at you live on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel every Tuesday at this very hour, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also pick it up on Facebook, on Twitter, and wherever I can think of to shamelessly plug this show. There are a lot of offerings from JFtC. The website itself, you need to visit every day. There is a terrific series that goes on throughout the regular season of minor league recaps presented by our colleague Ryan Mueller. We have game recaps every time there's a game. Barry's Jays from the Couch writers are recapping those games. But if you're into more of the audio-visual milieu, if you will, there is the Mothership Podcast, the Jays from the Couch radio podcast hosted by our senior editor and founder, Sean Doyle. That is on every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Rotating cast of characters, whether they be from Jays from the Couch, whether they be Shai Davidi or Keegan Matheson. Jordan Romano has joined us. We bring in people from outside of Blue Jays Nation to have them try to convince us that their team is worth rooting for. They cover all the bases. That's Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And on Thursdays, it is Sunny Side of the Dome, hosted by Karen Suter. It is a fascinating show because Karen is an unabashed Blue Jays fan, Blue Jays supporter. She will find a way. She'll find that glimmer of hope, even in the most dire of situations, but she balances it. She knows her baseball. She's not going to just blow smoke at you. She's going to tell you what's really going on, but why there's hope for the future and hope for the now. So make sure you tune into that Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube channel, Facebook page, and on Twitter at Jays from Couch. I'm your host, the Fekless Wonder, Steve Fek. Usually I'm surrounded by man cave kind of things, Blue Jay signs and various deals. But I wanted to show you that I'm an actual real human being. Those of you that have watched future shows or that respond to me on Twitter kind of doubt that. See, there's no rubber padding on the wall. Okay? There's no bars on my windows or doors. There's no caretaker or, prison guard behind me, hitting his hand with his nightstick, waiting to knock me unconscious in case I lose my mind. I'm just a guy. I'm a Blue Jay fan. And and many of you may doubt that, which is why sometimes I actually wear Blue Jays gear just to prove to you that I am a Blue Jays fan. But I try to have honest conversations. I don't want to just rehash stuff you can find on social media and various places like that. I want you to think about what's going on with your team. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I believe that you should agree with me in many cases, but that's not what I'm after. I'm after an honest conversation. So make sure if you're watching the live stream, whether it be on Facebook or on Twitter or on our YouTube channel, fire your questions away. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You can call me out. You can challenge me on what I'm actually talking about. That's perfectly okay. I want this to be a conversation. This show, our podcast, Karen show, Sunny Side of the Dome, it is about engaging Blue Jay fans and baseball fans in general in honest conversation about the game we love. And on this show, I may go off into different tangents. It might not be always Blue Jay centric, but it all boils down to how you watch a game and how you can enhance your fandom of the Blue Jays just by thinking, taking a different viewpoint from what's being handed to you on Sportsnet, handed to you as great as many of the beat writers are. To a certain degree, they have to march to a certain drum beat, and they have to keep it relatively honest as far as just the facts, ma'am. Okay, I'm not necessarily as worried about just the facts, ma'am. Think of this as watching the Zapruder film. And everybody knows historically that is the documentation of JFK's assassination. But when the film starts, it's all fun and waving, and Jackie's all smiling, and JFK is looking around, checking out the crowd, taking it all in. But the headshot's coming. So at some point, the headshot's going to come. Your head's going to explode. I'm going to say something, and I don't plan it. It just kind of comes out. But hopefully you stick with us, throughout this 30-minute program. We're going to talk about this week in baseball. And this week in baseball is going to be Blue Jay centric this week. We're going to talk about Rowdy Tellez, boo, and Nate Pearson. Come home, Nate. Come on home. And we'll touch on Blue Jays way as well. But I want to kind of dive into the series just passed with the Boston Red Sox. In many ways, the Blue Jays conceivably could have swept that series. Okay, and yes, they had the big home run explosions, and that was really amazing and cool to watch and everything. But really, they were in every game. Alex Manoah pitched a terrific game last night. And the Blue Jays, Vladdy getting that, home run late. It was a heartbreaking way to lose in the bottom of the ninth. But in many ways, in your heart, as a Blue Jays fan, you marked that up as a win. But more importantly, they did not lose the series. They split the series. Ideally, you want to win a series, especially against a team that's ahead of you in the standings, as the Red Sox have been all year. But you're treading water. You're keeping pace. You cannot afford to continue to lose series, especially against teams that you are, in essence, competing against for a playoff spot. I think everybody will agree, even with the injury to Tyler Glasnow, he is probably out for the year. If you have not heard that news, he does have a partial tear of the UCL. He had some interesting comments, basically blaming the new rule that's being enforced as of next Monday about pitchers being able to use sticky substances on the ball to help with spin rate and offset the slickness of the ball and whatever other things going back. I don't want to go down that wormhole right now, because honestly, I cannot rationally talk about it. You don't need. I yell and scream enough. You don't need me going there. But even with Glasnow going down, and they've had as many devastating injuries to their bullpen as the Blue Jays have. So yes, you can point to injuries for the Blue Jays, and that's why their performance maybe is mediocre or just treading water throughout the year. The Blue Jays have had to put up with it as well. They're finding ways to win. They lead the AL East. They're probably going to stay atop there at this point. So now you're looking at teams like the Red Sox. You split against the Red Sox? Good. The Rays kicked the Jays' butt last time they played. So, you got to look at that. And how did they do against the White Sox? Again, not a division rival, but certainly a playoff team. A team that potentially, if Cleveland somehow manages to find more pitchers in their minor league system to keep them in the race, maybe the Indians could win the AL Central. I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm not giving up on the Royals yet, as much as many of you may want to snicker. And out west, you've got Oakland, you got the Angels, you have the Astros. What did the Astros do to the Blue Jays? So you need to take a look at the Blue Jays as a whole. And many people will contend that they're a wild card team. I will argue they are a mild card team. They're not a bad team. They're a damn good team. When Springer comes back, you could argue that the Blue Jays have the best lineup 1 through 9, even with the struggles of Danny Jansen and Reese McGuire. They have the best lineup 1 through 9 in the American League. I mean, on paper, it's probably the Astros now. And the Red Sox, as we saw in this series, they're nothing to sneeze at. But really, when Springer comes back, and Montoya's already said when he comes back, he's not a DH. He's gonna play center field, which means ideally that either Teoscar Hernandez goes into the DH slot that he was made for. Okay, he's the Blue Jays' answer to Marcell Ozuna. I mean, he's a decent enough, outfielder as far as positioning and as far as outfield assists go, but he's not an outfielder. He's just not. He's a DH. There's nothing wrong with that. David Ortiz made a career out of being a DH. Edgar Martinez, Harold Baines after he banged up his knees. There's nothing wrong with being a DH. Let him be a DH. Vladdy has proven that he can field his position, and he certainly fields the position better than Teoscar Hernandez does. So let Vladdy play first. He's on an MVP pace. Keep him at first. Teoscar becomes a DH. Or maybe Lourdes Gurriel will be the DH here and there. But Grichuk has earned an everyday job. Springer's your everyday center fielder. So somebody's going to not be happy and have to be a DH. That's fine. It can be Teoscar Hernandez. He'll get over it. When he cashes his check, he'll get over it. But even with that lineup, the Blue Jays pitching is sinking them in critical times. And I'm not going to abuse the bullpen the way I see so many people do on social media, and that's going to be part of the Blue Jays way conversation later in the program. They were overworked. That you had guys that were not used to pitching multiple innings over consecutive days. They weren't trained for that. They weren't developed for that. But they had to fill those roles. You can yell about Trent Thornton. Oh, Trent Thornton, he's not the pitcher he used to be. Well, no, he's not, because he's not starting. He's been made into a reliever, and they had to do it because they needed somebody of his caliber in the bullpen to pitch bulk innings early in the season when they were experimenting with the 2-3 inning starts, the opener, whatever Atkins inning diet was going on at the time, before they had Manoah come up and before Stripling figured it out. And, Ray and Ryu, you cannot argue against that. Steven Matz is on the COVID IL. He has tested positive. He will not be in the rotation, but he's been up and down. He's pitched great at times, and he's pitched pretty lousy at other times. He's repeating what he did as a Met. So the bullpen, not only do you have people in the bullpen that were not really ever trained, even in spring training, used as relievers, having to fill key bullpen roles. And it's not just the closer in the back end. The guy that comes in the 5th or 6th or 7th inning is equally as important. He's as much a leverage reliever as the guy that's closing out the game. Yes, there's been injuries that causes problems, but bottom line is, had they addressed the rotation early on in the year, and I've said this 100 times on the main podcast, on this little program, wins and losses matter just as much in April and just as much in May as they do in September and August after the trading deadline. It's almost too late for the Blue Jays to really seriously be considered a wild card team, because they have shown that they do not match up against teams that are competing for that wild card spot or competing for divisions. Now, they play the Yankees starting tonight, and they've done very well against the Yankees. The Yankees aren't making the playoffs. The Yankees are done. Get the big barbecue fork, stick it in the back of Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge and DJ LeMahieu and Garrett Cole. Whoever you want to stick it in the back of, they're done. Yankee season is over. The Blue Jays will finish ahead of the Yankees. I will give you that. That's why they're a mild card, not a wild card. The Blue Jays now can no longer just tread water. They need to go out and win virtually every single series they're in. At the very least, if it's an even number of games, they need to split the series. And I've heard even people on the couch say, well, they had a tough schedule. They really haven't played as many games against Detroit or Baltimore or whatever bad team that you want to throw out there. Okay, but the bottom line is you're going to pay. Everybody's going to play an equal number of games in the AL East against Baltimore. And now the Yankees are basically a carcass ready for vultures to pick on. So you can't. It's easy to look for reasons why other teams have been more successful than you have. Ultimately, you need to look at the stats and the performance. And I'm not talking about analytics and what is expected of a player based on their performance and their talents and their age. You don't have to weight it based on what ballpark you play in or whatever it is. You know what? If you're lucky enough to be a hitter in Colorado, you still need to hit and be successful. Same for the Red Sox. Same for left-handed hitters in Yankee Stadium. Not every left-handed hitter succeeds in Yankee Stadium when they're in the Yankee uniform. You still have to do the job. So forget about ballpark factors and all these other things. Just focus on what you need to do, and that is win games. Doesn't matter how you do it. I don't know how the Cleveland Indians have done as well as they have done with their anemic offense. They have won ball games. The Rays always find a way, and they pulled off another miraculous trade, and they gave up something. They gave up Willy Adames, who is like hitting well over 400 as a Brewer. Now, he's not going to keep that pace up, but Willy Adames is a damn good player, and he's a very good shortstop. But they're a chock load of middle infielders in their minor league system, so they could afford to do that, and they brought in two great relievers. Fire Reason may have been Milwaukee's best reliever, and we're talking about a team that has Josh Hader and Devin Williams. He may have been their best reliever through this season, and now he's lights out like everybody that comes into Tampa Bay in their bullpen. So, yes, I'm happy that they found a way to split the series against Boston. They'll probably win their series against the Yankees and the Orioles. That is good. Bottom line is they are not in the top two in the AL East. And even though Boston may have some pitching issues, Chris Sale's going to come back. He's even said, I'll pitch in relief if I have to. So the Blue Jays are a mild card team right now. Until they go on a run or make a move to bolster their pitching, now they have to bolster the rotation and the bullpen. Don't tell me they're a wild card contender. They're a mild card team. They'll have a winning record. They'll be fun to watch. They'll be competitive. They're not a playoff team as they exist right now. Now, the weekly segment, this tweak in baseball, is going to focus on two players. One's got to go, and one's got to come back. And I think that those of you that have watched this program over the several months that we've been doing it know who I'm going to target as the guy that needs to go. And that's Rowdy Tellez. Now, Rowdy Tellez in 2019, a good story. Had a really strong finish. But that was not a playoff contender. They were just starting to bring up the young guys. So he could be a power source, if you will. Rowdy Tellez, except for when he plays the Red Sox, and especially in Fenway Park, is not a power source. You can pretty much guarantee in a clutch situation, he's going to ground out weakly to the shortstop or to the second baseman. He'll probably strike out in a bad time. He'll pop up or foul out. That's who Rowdy Tellez is. He's capable of streaks, but he's not productive enough to take up a roster spot. When Springer comes off the IL, Rowdy Tellez needs to go. And ideally at the trading deadline, you can dangle him because there are still analytic darlings that think Rowdy Tellez, is the next power guy to shine and MLB. So fine, give him to one of those analytics-driven teams and let them watch him bounce into an inning rally-killing double play. Okay. I'm done with Rowdy Tellez. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Atkins had it right for like 5 days when he claimed Daniel Vogelback. It was the same kind of hitter. It's feast or famine. But you know what? Vogelback has been far more productive with the Brewers than Tellez has ever been with the Blue Jays. So Rowdy, it's time to go. I'm sure some people will still fondly remember you. And we'll be talking on shows like this about, boy, Rowdy Tellez, he just showed he had so much promise. You look at what was expected and what could be projected, and you were really excited. But then you actually watched him play, and you're like, oh, my God. It reminds me of a story. I was sitting in Old Three Rivers Stadium, because of those of you that don't know already, I'm obviously not a Canadian, but I live here in Pittsburgh. I'm the American correspondent, if you will, the American war correspondent, since I'm still at war with Ross Atkins and many things that his front office is doing. But this is like 85, the year of the drug trials, and the Pirates were just awful. So it was really easy to get good tickets because nobody was going. They didn't go to games when they were in the 79 World Series until the World Series came along. And my buddies and I were sitting around, and there was this old guy. Obviously, he was a lifelong Pirate fan. And he was keeping score, and the Pirates got a rally going, got runners, got bases loaded, 1 out, and up comes Jason Thompson. The guy visibly sighed, went, and he wrote down in his scorebook, slammed his scorebook shut, put it down. And sure enough, Jason Thompson bounced into a 6-4-3 double play. And we couldn't resist. So we got down to the guy. It ended the game. Pirates lost. He said, we have to know, what did you write in the scorecard? And he opened up his scorebook to the game, and he'd written 6-4-3 double play. He had seen enough of Jason Thompson to know what was going to happen in that situation. I have seen enough, and I'm sure many of you have seen enough of Jason Thompson. Rowdy Tellez, to know, just marking out. If you don't want to try to hit it on the head by saying strikeout or foul out or double play, ground ball double play, just close your scorebook when he's up, because odds are it's over. He's got to go. When Springer comes back, he's got to go. You keep Jonathan Davis because he does provide defensive bolstering if needed in late innings. He can start once or twice a week. He's a base running threat late in the game as well for Charlie Montoyo. So, Rowdy, see ya. I won't miss you, but I'm sure many Blue Jay fans will. It's time for you to go. Somebody that needs to come back right now, since we talked about bullpen woes earlier, is Nate Pearson. And there was something on Twitter, which I generally don't pay attention to, but I enjoyed the particular tweet because I knew that if I shared it on the board behind the scenes at Jace from the Couch, people would be like, oh, derisive. And they come up with all kind of stats about how Nate Pearson's struggling still as a starter in a double-A ballpark, which is going to be prone for somebody like Pearson to give up extra base hits and everything. I knew it would evoke that reaction. But the guy said Pearson needs to come back. He needs to be in the bullpen tonight. And he is right. Nate Pearson's future just might be as a bullpen guy, a leverage reliever. For whatever reason, he has not been able to put it together for multiple innings. Maybe it's in his head. Maybe it's in how he's not able to work through a game plan at the major league level. What pure talent helped him get through when he was in the minors and tearing up the minors isn't cutting it at the major league level. You look at Alek Manoah, college pitcher, older, more mature, but he pitched in high leverage situations at West Virginia, in the Big 12, in the College World Series. He, on the job, figured it out. And he had the same command and wildness issues that Pearson did. But he figured it out. Maybe Nate Pearson, if you just say, you just need to get 3 outs. Forget about, whatever's going on. Just go out, throw as hard as you can, snap off that slider, get that breaking pitch over, get the mix, but only do it for an inning. And in a pinch, because he's been a starter, you can stretch him out to 2 innings. The old Andrew Miller model, a reliever. He can contribute in that role with the Blue Jays right now. I would rather see Nate Pearson, knowing that he could implode and that he's had those command issues, and maybe it is something in his psyche where he's just not able to take it from what he was in the minors to the major leagues. But I'd rather take that chance than to see, Rafael Dolis come in and mope around on the mound and, stomp and just take his time. It's like watching an NBA or college basketball game in the last minute, which always lasts like 20 minutes, even though there's only 1 minute technically on the clock. That's what it's like watching Rafael Dolis pitch. So it's bad enough that he's not been effective or consistent, but he just takes his time. Dennis Eckersley, during one of the broadcasts this weekend, was talking about he's never seen a pitcher or a player in general with worse body language than Rafael Dolis. Give me Nate Pearson. Let him prove that he's got the stuff, and then let him work in an off-season program and in spring training if you really still want to give him another chance as a starter. Chris Sale did it. Chris Sale was tremendous out of the bullpen. Jimmy Key, David Wells, Juan Guzman all started their careers in relief. Bring up Nate Pearson now. Stop telling me what projected numbers look like or what he's doing down there. Come up here, show him some confidence and say, we're giving you the ball in leverage situations. Do your best. Is it any worse than having Anthony Castro come in or Rafael Dolis? Poor Tim Meza, he's been terrific. His arm's going to fall off because he's the only left-hander in the bullpen at this point. But all those guys, Tyler Chatwood, now that maybe he's not using sticky stuff, maybe that's the problem. They've already kind of backed off. Yeah, it's hard to say, but Chatwood has had moments like this in his career. Bring up Nate Pearson. This week in baseball, get rid of Rowdy Tellez. If you want to have a heart, wait till Springer comes off the IL and then get rid of him and try to see what you can get for him in a trade since other teams seem to love him. And Nate Pearson needs to come up. He's 24 years old. It's time for him to prove what he can do. So that's my This Week in Baseball. And I think a lot of you guys out there agree with me on that. Well, we're almost out of time. So there's not really a Blue Jays way segment. I don't have time for that, other than to say, Blue Jay fans, you're better than Twitter. You're better than Instagram. You're better than whatever social media thing is out there. Don't take it so seriously. Okay? The people that are out there are trying to get your goat. And I can say that because on this program and on the podcast, I try to get your goat. So don't take it so seriously. Thanks for tuning in this week. You can always catch the show in archives on the YouTube channel, on Twitter, on our Facebook page. Make sure you tune in to the main podcast Mondays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time with Sean Doyle. And coming up on Thursday, it's Sunny Side of the Dome with Karen Suter. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Steve Fek. Talk at you next week.